1, 2, 3. Play? Music. Alright. Hey! I'm on time! This time. Alright, can I get the ad out? Let's see if I can. So, hello to anyone that is here. Very early. Probably just myself. Yeah, so I missed a week. Sorry about that. But I'm here this week. And that's cool. Let me try to get things ready. Let me get the chat open. Okay. Yeah, wow. I had I had everything nice and lined up. That's very cool. All right. And then I get the message out. Here we go. So, nice and simple and clean, right? Today's lesson, since, well, again, if anyone wants tutoring for math, that'd be great. But until then, I do recognize that it's about that time of the year when it's like finals or graduation. So to anyone that has already graduated, hey, congratulations. Or maybe you just finished the semester and you're just done and you're chilling. Again, congratulations. That's huge. Good for you. And then for anyone that's still anticipating finals, well, I hope this can help. Because I believe finals run until early June? Sometimes? It's usually until like mid to end of May. Yeah. Oh shoot, my face. I gotta put it on. Okay. So, in light of that, I think I'm gonna work, instead of going over specific math concepts that people might already feel like they need to master, or something that's probably totally unrelated to what they're doing, is to kind of give more grounded, practical advice on how to find success in test taking. Is everything loaded up? Yes. 20 seconds to spare. Nice. Lovely. Alright. So yeah. Now, of course, there's the... oh, I'm getting started way too early. It's still loading. Okay. Let me wait until everything gets on screen, then I can make sure we're all good to go. Oh. Hey! Alright. So, today I think I'm going to go over test taking tips. Now, I've done a little bit of this before, and that was, I believe, for the winter. Yeah, winter finals. Or, not finals. Or would it be finals? Yeah, winter finals. So now we're going to go over it again. But this time we're going to draw from a source. An official source. Ooh. It's going to be Harvard. Ah. Harvard's tips for test-taking success. So, the reason why I want to kind of have this as more like a not a structure. Yeah, I guess kind of like a skeleton, an outline of what they propose that you should do, and then just kind of throw in some little more more practical strategies, or at least how to put it into practice, right? With a bit of anecdotal stuff. And for anyone that wants to go over it themselves, well, I mean, you could probably just do a Google search. But just in case, let's see, can I put it in here? Yeah, there's a link. So to anyone in the stream that wants to kind of follow along, there's that. And you could also read it yourself and just kind of leave the stream if you want. Hey, that's fine. If you're stressing about finals, you know, hopefully that's not the case. Maybe you could just kind of chill, sit back, relax, and have a dinner and just kind of listen along. Alright. So just to kind of, oh wow, it's already been 5 minutes. Just to kind of get into it. Oh, I can do screenshots. Let me try that. And again, even though I'm going over this subject, if anyone wants to kind of go over their math stuff, I can try to help. And the reason why I say try is because at this stage of the semester, maybe you want to focus more on tips like these, or trying to go to office hours or things like that that are kind of more immediate payoff. Because basically what tutoring would mostly be is kind of just like over time, right? Week after week, learning a lesson along as a supplement. Think of like meal planning, right? That's kind of how it pays off. But at this stage of the game, if you need like a lot of help, there's some things you could do. a little good, little bad, but it's not exactly tutoring. I'll tell you that much. All right, but to actually go over what they say, right? Cultivating good study habits. Oh, hey, speak of the thing I was just saying. So yeah, this part where it says remembering information for tests takes time. This is basically the nice way of saying that you probably should have studied through the year and the semester, and not just like a couple weeks before the final. That's basically what it is. Yeah, long before the test day. Now, this could also apply to things like SATs, ACT, any kind of regional testing that you may have. Heck, you know what? This could even be applied outside of school and in your career, right? Say, for example, you have like a presentation that you have to give. Kind of working on it a little bit day by day, way in advance, right? Like as soon as you get the thing, just piece by piece, kind of working on it and planning that out. Oh, I should be drawing while I do this. Yeah, that's kind of my whole thing. All right. So, oh, you know what it's like? It's kind of like eating like a... Oh, what's a big food? A big tray of brownies, right? Yeah, maybe you could think you could just kind of cram it all in and just like eat it all up right away. But really, if you want to kind of enjoy it, and if they don't go bad, and if they last a really long time, you kind of want to like portion it out for as long as possible. So that way you kind of get to enjoy the taste a little bit every day. In a similar way, when it comes to being able to retain the taste or the information that you're being taught or what you want to learn in the final, and you know, it's better to kind of piecemeal it over time. There. Now, taking advantage of any practice test. Again, that's kind of a tricky thing. So when they say practice test, that could also be applied to things like maybe a quiz. It could also be basically any kind of extra homework questions. So let's say, for example, if you're taking a class and they have like, you know, assigned reading, right? And if there's like multiple pages where this is like mandatory and this is kind of like maybe optional. When it comes to good study habits, a part of kind of, how do I put this? Part of the process of studying over time is also to include part of studying over time is also to keep in mind, there it is, that you need to study the correct thing as well. Because there might be times where maybe you're studying a bit of the right thing, and then you have all this extra space, and you're like, okay, well, I don't know what to do here. Do I just fill it with random stuff that might not be on the test? Just don't do that. Don't study for things that you know are not going to be on the test, or that are not relevant, or that are kind of supplemental. You really want to focus on actually studying the material that is necessary for the test, because even if you, in the beginning of the school year, right? Let's say, for example, you're a fast learner, and you only need to study this thing once, and you kind of got it because it's easy enough, right? Well, maybe you have other classes, so then you can kind of fill in that time to kind of study their things. But you can also kind of come back and revisit it in a very light way, right? You don't actually have to go hard in the paint and just say, okay, I need to study like every day, and this is the only way I can find success. No, it's just making sure that you're doing it a little bit over time, but also the correct material. Because if you study too much of the wrong material, or things that aren't going to be on the test, or things that are kind of extra, That's cool, and you get to learn more, and that's fantastic, right? But it's not going to help you with the test, because at that point, you're going to remember like 300 things, when you really maybe only need to know like 80 different things, and then your head's just going to be crammed, and then when you have kind of that, whatchamacallit, that panic, the test-taking nerves, then the more things you have in your head, it's just going to kind of mess you up. Now, if there's extra things in your class that you do want to learn over time, I would say do that outside of the school semester. But during the school semester, just focus on what you need to know. Make it as stress-free as possible, right? Just stick with what you need to know, work on that, do a little bit over time, and that'll get you where you need to be. So, that I think those are good study habits. And the thing is that you could think of it almost like a workout. That's probably a healthier example than eating brownies, because if you're eating a bunch of brownies, that's gonna get you sick, and they can get stale over time. Yeah, a workout, right? If you do something like I don't know, like dips, I guess, then focusing on that and doing most of that a little bit over time, in addition to doing the new exercises, will benefit you a lot. But then don't just do a bunch of like crazy, isometric, isolated, just like all these machine stuff, and then you forget how to do like a dip properly. Yeah. I think that's a better example. Alright. So yeah, again, good generic advice, right? Have a good study habit. But there's a little bit more that could be added there. Although maybe they will talk about it, right? Who knows? I'm barely on number 1. Alright, number 2. Let's see if I could paste this somewhere here. Here we are. Don't cram. Ooh. Yeah, that makes sense. So it might seem like a good idea to spend hours memorizing the material you need the night before the test. Highly counterproductive. Very true. Because think about... Again, I think exercise is probably more relevant. It might be tempting to, let's say, before you have to like pick up a bunch of heavy boxes, right? To say, oh, I need to get strong before I do this. Clearly the obvious thing I need to do is I need to push a bunch of weights and exhaust my muscles, and tire myself out, and be completely sore, and by the time the day comes, then I'm just gonna be like freaking out and exhausted, and I can't move my muscle, right? Does that look like a guy pushing weights? Kind of. I should probably draw like a bench. Alright, but similar to that, right? Similar to how it might seem like an obviously bad idea to like do a bunch of exercise like the day before you have to do like this big, maybe like you're helping someone move, and then your muscles are all exhausted. In a similar way, think of your brain kind of like that too. Wherein instead of trying to cram or trying to really push the material or exhaust your mind right before a test, focus on rest. Focus on chilling. Focusing on relaxing the night before the test. Don't cram, right? Because, I mean, okay, if you do cram though, right? If you are desperate and you absolutely need to cram, don't do it the night before. Because that will impact your sleep, and that will impact your ability to rest and recover and go ham on the day of the test. So if you have to cram, right? Again, I don't recommend it. It's like exhausting yourself right before you have to do like a big thing. You have to carry a bunch of stuff. That's a really small head. Do it like a couple days before at best. Because in that way you have a day of rest, but then also maybe you can kind of get some of the material in your head. Now, while you're resting though, right, maybe you could like passively, relaxedly listen to some relevant stuff, right? People talking about the test, well, no, maybe it'll stress you out. You know what, don't do anything that'll stress you out, I guess is the way to do it, right? Don't do anything that'll ruin your sleep, stress you out the day before. If you can chill and relax and watch like a YouTube video on someone talking about the subject, or if you can like talk to friends and not freak out about the test and how and how worried you are about it, then that's fine. But again, cramming, always bad. Again, Don't do it the night before. Try to avoid it the days leading up to it. Instead, just work on having a good habit where you're just doing it a little bit every day, right? So let's say, for example, if you have a final in about like 2 weeks from now, instead of thinking, okay, I'm going to cram the night before and it's going to be great. No. Try to piecemeal the lesson that you have to learn and just do like a lesson a day, right? Yeah. There's other stuff I could say about that part too, but I think they'll talk about it, so I'm gonna hold off. But cramming's really bad. Really, really bad. And again, the main issue is specifically sleep. Sleep deprivation before cramming, being stressed before cramming, stuff like that, I think, will mess you up when you try to take a strenuous final. Now, if it's a really easygoing final, and you have to like read a book, and you think you can knock it out the night before, well, that's your call, right? I'd still say, you know, do it, have a good study habit, do it way earlier. Ooh, I like this one. Alright, gather materials the night before. So before we're going to bed, gather everything you need for the test and have it ready to go, right? Now, I would say maybe do a little bit more than that, right? Like if you have a routine that you do the morning of, right? So let's say, for example, every day you brush your teeth, or every day you wear your clothes, or whatever. Try to have it so that you have that kind of routine set up, and then follow that routine. So it's not just so much that you have to gather all your materials before, but make sure that when you wake up the next morning, right before a test, or the days even leading up to a test, you have kind of this routine where you're able to have everything laid out before you, and in the morning time when you're going to be studying all day, getting ready for the final, or when you're going to be, you know, in office hours, asking your teacher questions, whatever it is that you're doing for that day, when you have a routine and have everything kind of ready and prepped for you, so that you're not stressing and not rushing, that actually helps you be more productive for that whole day. Whether it's the days studying leading up to the final, but also most definitely for the final itself. So having your clothes out, what is this, like a toothbrush? I guess a book. Yeah, it's just doodle. And then what? I forgot how it looks. But you know that book that has like the black and white on it with all the notes? Kind of looks like this. It's all squiggly. Actually, that just looks weird. Never mind. I'll just leave it like this. Okay. And then I guess like a pencil. Although I think a lot of tests and stuff might be online or on a computer. So I'm not sure. But anyways, this advice, getting your materials ready the night before, is fantastic, not just for the test, but the days leading up to the test, and any day in which you don't want to be stressed, right? If you have a big event, a big gala to go to, if you have a date or something, just having things ready the night before, so then the morning of, you're not like, do I have everything? Do I need this? Do I need that? Am I forgetting this? Oh no. No. You start off very relaxed. That's gonna help you out. So this is good advice. I like it. All these advices are good. But this one's relevant also not just for the test, but for the days leading up. And you know what? It's even better if you meal prep. If you have like something where you can like meal prep the night before, and then you just like grab and go on the day of, so that way you can kind of get started and head to like the library and study for the day. Oh man, that's fantastic. That is a choice. You're ready to study, right? Not cram, just study. All right, let's see what else they got. Hey, get a good night's sleep. Yep. And speaking of sleep, showing up to your test well rested is one of the best things you could do. Absolutely, right? Why should you make sleep a priority? Think more clearly in tests. Test stress and anxiety. Yep. Yes. So actually, I know it's coming from Harvard, right? So you should probably trust what they're saying. But I do recall reading a study like years ago, about students and their study habits and how, depending on how much sleep they get the night before, right? And so if a student was to like study like lightly the night, no, if a study was to study like a little bit the day before and then get a really good night's sleep, compared to someone who goes hard in the paint and crams all night and is exhausted the day of the test, the person who gets more sleep, oh, I should be joining this. The person who gets more sleep the night before the test always outperformed the person who crammed and stood up all night and tried to memorize the material. So this is good and this is bad. I don't know how or why that works. I'm sure there's a lot of technical terms talking about like chemicals and whatnot about why sleep helped them do better, even though they studied less and they just got better rest. But I assume it's because part of the way in which people memorize things is in their sleep. So when you have a new experience or different events, it can affect your dreams and your sleep, and then that helps your brain kind of sort it out and put it into like long-term storage, right? And so that's why it's important to not just get sleep the night before the test, but the nights leading up to the test as well. If you're cramming the 5 days every day before the test, you just get good sleep on the night before the test, it's still not going to work. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have sleep deprivation, where, you know, if you have like maybe 2 hours of sleep, 2 hours of sleep, 2 hours of sleep, 2 hours of sleep, and then you finally get 8 hours the night before, those sleep deprivation, those missing hours that you're not getting enough sleep, is still going to affect your test taking skills leading up to the test. And so that's why cramming is bad, because it will affect you long before you even set foot into the classroom. So instead, try to just aim for 8 hours or more, or whatever works for you, right? Some people do like, I'm okay with 6. Some people are okay with like 12. Whatever works for you and reduces your stress and helps your brain kind of remember things the best. That will help you so much more be ready for the test, even if you study less, because the things that you do study, you'll retain much better than someone who does cramming. So again, great advice, but I would say it's not just for the night before. It should be like the week or 2 leading up to that test. Yeah. Alright. Is there more? Yeah, there's more. Oh my gosh, I'm only on number 5. I'm all halfway through time. And there's like 14 of these things. Alright. Let's keep her going. Hold on. I'm having issues trying to figure out how to clip this. Alright. Here we go. Eat a healthy breakfast. Yeah, I guess so. Let's see. Yeah, you don't want to eat like a laxative right before the test. That's a bad idea. You don't want to get rumbly in your tummies or be irritable bowel syndrome. I don't know. Yeah, don't do anything bad that will sabotage your ability to take the test, especially if it's like a long one. Now, I know they're talking about like eating a healthy breakfast, like, oh yeah, you should eat some oatmeal. You got to eat some like bananas or whatever, right? I would say maybe. And again, the reason why is because, let's say for example, you think, oh, this is a great day. I'm gonna eat so healthy. It's gonna be amazing. It's the day before the test. I'm gonna have like a nice, big bowl of oatmeal, right? And then you fill it up with all these fruits, and you do brown sugar, and you use a whole milk, and then it's like great and it's delicious. It's like, this is the healthiest breakfast I've eaten in like weeks. I'm ready for the test, right? But but lo and behold, you forget that you're lactose intolerant. And then when it comes to the test, even though you ate a really healthy breakfast and you think, oh yeah, this is going to be great, this is okay. What ends up happening is that you end up having an upset stomach and you still got like 2 hours on the test. And you're just suffering. Because you accidentally ate healthy food that you're not used to. So again, I would say healthy breakfast, take it with a grain of salt. I'd say eat what you know is good for you, what's safe for you, right? If you like having a very specific kind of meal that's like a ritual or something that's consistent with what you do and it's not killing you, go with that, right? They're gonna say like, oh yeah, you should eat this thing, right? You should eat that thing. This is great for your body. But again, if it's food that's gonna upset you or you've never eaten before, really don't do that. Don't be keeping that in mind. So I would kind of give this a eh. It sounds like good advice, but as someone who's been through this, I'm telling you, eat what's good for you. That will keep you steady during the test. Not just like a generically healthy breakfast, because that could mess you up real bad. All right. Yeah, that's oof, memories. Yeah. All right, what's the next generic advice that they got in Harvard? What are these smart people saying? Okay. Here's another one that I might have to read a bit. Arrive early. So arriving early can help decrease stress, right? And it gets you a positive state of mind before the test starts. You choose your seat. I would say maybe. And the reason why I say maybe is because you definitely don't want to be late. And there's, again, it's a difference, right? There's a difference between arriving early and not being late. Because arriving early, if you're really nervous, you might be waking up like 2 to 3 hours before the time you normally wake up, right? And you might be like, antsy in the pantsy and waiting at the test, and you're just pacing there, kind of nervous about the test. And going back and forth. So that could be a thing if you arrive early and you're not relaxed. I would say arrive not late, don't be stressed, and arrive at a time which is relaxing for you. Because some people, they say early is like, okay, I'm going to be there like no, not 2. I'm going to be there an hour early. But then they're just like pacing the whole time. Or it's like cold and they're just waiting. Yeah, that can happen. Don't do that. And instead, just arrive with time where you're not stressed, you can relax, and just don't be late. That's it. So arrive early, I'm going to say maybe. But what's better is... And the reason why being late is bad is because you're starting off on where you're feeling rushed already. You're feeling rushed, you're feeling stressed. They might not even let you in, depending on the class or the course. So depending on the person that is, I guess, proctoring the exam, they could be super chill, super not chill. Either way, do not be late. But arriving early, I don't know. If it works for you, go for it. If any of these pieces of advice, if you love eating healthy oatmeal every day, go for it, right? Again, this is not to say that this is bad advice. It's just this needs to be kind of a bit more tailored. I think this advice is, as I've seen so far, a bit generic. But they do have a point in that if you are maybe like 10 minutes early, 15 minutes early, then you could get in your seat, you could relax, you could kind of be comfortable with the environment, look around, know where you're at, right? In fact, I think, you know what, the more I think about this advice, the better it seems. Because, again, if you're early, then that gives you time to use the restroom before your test, which is huge. So maybe you want to do that, if possible. But again, don't be late. That's kind of the more important lesson, I think. Ooh, I like this next point. Alright, they kind of use a bit of a weird term, but I would agree with it. Let's put it over here. Develop positive rituals. So ritual doesn't mean like you have to like sacrifice an animal. No, it just means like a thing that you do that you do consistently, and that is like a system. The system of how you live your life. So an example would be waking up and doing a certain routine every morning, right? Or even better, which I think a lot of people ignore, a routine for bed, right? Some people, they say like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go to sleep when I'm tired, and I'm just gonna study until I'm tired, and then that's when I go to bed, right? Don't do that. If you have a kind of system, a way to do things, in this case, a ritual before bed, where you say, okay, all right, an hour before bed, no electronics, right? And then maybe like 30 minutes before bed, have some nice relaxing tea. And then like 10 minutes before bed, use the restroom. And then I don't know if should I draw a toilet? Yeah, that's fine. Wait, how do I draw a toilet? I guess like this? That looks like a chair. I'm gonna do one of those old-timey toilets with the box on the back. There we go. Alright, that's a toilet. And then finally, at a very specific time every day leading up to the test and the night before that test, right? If you have a sleep ritual, if you have a thing that you do that is positive, that helps you relax, calm down, wind down, even if you're stressed about the test, even if you think, oh, I don't know this thing, I really got to do it, I really got to memorize it, and I didn't have time to study it tonight. No. Go through the thing. Go through the thing that normally relaxes you. No TV, the tea, the bathroom, whatever your ritual is that you do before bed that is healthy and that kind of helps you relax and gets you to sleep, that will help you so much more. Because think of it this way. If you go into the test that's all stressed out and you're freaking out and you don't know what to do and your eyeballs all like bloodshot, right? And you're just exhausted because you decided to ignore that ritual and things aren't right, then that can mess you up, because that messes up 100% of the test. The entirety of the test, 100% of it is now messed up because you didn't go through the thing that you wanted to do. But let's say, for example, you didn't study the last part, right? And you don't know what exactly you're supposed to do, and you didn't have enough time to study that last material. Then what that does is that only messes up like 20% at most, right, of the test, where you still have the 80% because you're relaxed, you went through your ritual, you went through the things that calmed you down, and you're totally good for the test. 80 passes. You're fine. That's good. And that 20%, you're guessing, right? You're probably not going to zero it out completely. You can just go for it and try to work with it. So again, don't try to break things to cram. Do the healthy rituals or system that you do to help you get ready for the day, get ready for bed, and keep it up even leading up to and the night before the test. And heck, even afterwards, unless you're a party animal. Then whatever. If you think you aced it, then you do you. But ideally, right, you want to be as stress-free as you can going into it. So that's kind of what they mean by, develop a positive ritual. I think they're talking about more about making it, but at this point, I mean, it's finals, right? If it's something that you're kind of used to doing, is just staying up late, just try to change that a little bit. You don't have to like have this whole complete new system. That might freak you out even more. Just do a little bit better leading up to it and improve your schedule, your sleep habits, your morning habits, so that way you can find that relaxation and find success. And again, a lot of this stuff to prepare for a test or a job interview or a major corporate presentation, whatever it may be, these all kind of apply. So this is kind of more of like a life skill. Yeah. So that also means keep it up. Oh, we're halfway there. Okay. I had 35 minutes. Nice. Nice. Oh. This is a silly one. I like it. Hold on, let's see if I can snip it properly. Sorry if there's flickering, by the way. I'm alt-tabbed, so I can't quite see the screen. Here we are. Alright. Listen to the instructions. Wow, imagine that. A strategy for success is just to kind of sit there and listen. But it's true. It's very, very true, because if you're taking a final with a professor and you've never taken a final with them before, right? They might have some very specific rules. If they're extremely strict, right? And they say, don't turn over the book, don't grab your pencil, don't touch anything, right? Make sure you're listening, because your nerves might get you a little jittery. And if you're a little jittery and you kind of want to touch the material, or you accidentally look at it beforehand, that is a terrible looking hand. Okay, whatever. I just need something to look jittery. And you're antsy and you're not listening, then you might get in trouble. I don't recall ever seeing someone getting kicked out of a final by touching the material early, because then they touch it and then look up and listen, realize no one's doing it, and then they like flip it down right away. So they didn't get caught. It might have been bad though. But yeah, there's probably a lot of information, and like they said, structure the test, time limitations, anything that's kind of important. They might tell you this stuff way before the final, which would be cool. But more often than not, they tell you that the day of the final. So that, you know, as soon as you sit down and they're talking, you gotta listen to the proctor or the teacher or whoever is giving the test or whatever. They might have like oh geez, is there a weird one? Yeah, they might have a rule that says like, all right, if you have to use the restroom, then you're done. You're done with your test. You have to leave. You can't come back in. Once you're out of the room. That's kind of a common one. And it's very important to kind of learn that. And again, learning to kind of prep before the test, be relaxed, but also make sure everything's taken care of is super important. But yeah, if they say that once you leave, then you're done, keep that in mind. That's a very common rule, especially for finals. Now, if it's online, I think what they do is they have someone like looking at you on a screen, right? They're just kind of staring, making sure that everything's put away. And this is kind of another example where you have to make sure that, you know, no one's gonna bother you. Everyone's gonna be outside of the room or wherever you're at, right? Making sure it's like a clear area, making sure that they can see you. Also kind of be aware of your surroundings. So if they say like, you know, you have to listen, oh, maybe they have a screen sharing thing where they're watching your screen and they're staring at you the whole time while you're taking your test online. That could happen, right? And another thing to be aware of is, although I guess this is, yeah, it's a bit niche. If you have glasses, right? If you have glasses and you're staring at a screen and you have a proctor that's watching you, be aware that they could probably see the reflection on your glasses. So if you have like paper you shouldn't have, if you're alt-tabbing when you shouldn't be, if you have another screen next to you, if you have someone that's like sitting in front of you, they'll probably see it on the glasses. Again, very, very niche advice. But just a heads up, that's a thing. So try not to cheat, but also listen to the instructions. If they tell you to clear the room, just clear it. Don't cheat. I guess that's like the second part of this. Do not cheat. Maybe you can get away with it sometimes, but in the end, you'll probably just cheat yourself. Yeah, don't touch the material early. Don't do anything like that. Yeah. Okay. Now, have I ever cheated like that? I have not, but I've seen people that have, and it was very embarrassing for them. So, that's why I bring that up, specifically. Especially when taking an online test. Oh, that was funny. Alright, next one. Read the entire test. Ooh, I like this. I like this advice. Now, normally this is for like a tricky tests where they say, all right, read the instructions, and then you only have to do like 2 things, and then you sign your name, and then you're done, right? That's usually like kind of like a joke test. Right now we're in the final season, so it's not necessarily that. But I think reading the entire test is a fantastic idea, because let's say, for example, you have a test that's like in like 3 parts, right? And you have parts that are like word problems, parts that are multiple choice, and parts that are like fill in the blanks, right? And so then by reading the entire test, you kind of figure out, okay, what section is being covered, what sections are not being covered. You kind of get your mind ready to prepare to basically throw out the information that you don't need and retain the stuff that you do need to know, as well as being able to decide, okay, well, if this multiple choice I can do really fast, and then the write-ins I can kind of do medium, and then this word problems is kind of slow for me, then when you are in the test, and if you listen to the instructions, and let's say they only give you like 1 or 2 hours, then you can kind of use that, as well as looking at the clock or some other kind of thing to kind of gauge, okay, how much time do I need to spend, not only on the test as a whole, but also on each section. And they can even break that down further by skimming it really quick to say, okay, so not only do I have this much time for each section, but if I'm going to dedicate like maybe like 15 minutes to this part, I could dedicate like 5 minutes to each question. Now, that's not realistic, right? Normally in finals, it's like maybe like a minute a question or less. But in this example, the idea is that you could allocate your time right when you get the test and you can open it to figure out, okay, how much time can I spend on each question? Now, that's something that they might cover later on, but this is also very, very, very important to kind of have that kind of time management skill to figure out how much you should dedicate towards not only sections, questions, and also realizing, and this is a huge thing, that you can always skip. Skipping is huge. Skipping is an amazing tip, because when you read the entire test, right, and you realize, okay, well, I can skip this question, I can skip this question, because kind of again, it's a bit different grading for every test, for every final, right? They might tell you beforehand, but basically 1 question equals 1 question, right? So if there's like 3 that you know, and then like 1 that you don't know, just do the 3 that you know, skip this 1 that you don't know, and then go back to it later. Because you want to get as many questions that you do know for sure to fill out the most of the final, and then for the ones that you don't know, you can always come back to later. And so being able to know which questions you can skip, being able to know how much time you need to allocate per question, being able to know what the sections are, all that falls under the umbrella of the skill of just looking at the entire test beforehand, just skimming the whole thing. Read the entire test before you even write anything down. So yeah, this is fantastic advice. That's great. Ooh, this is some weird advice. I might have to read this one. I might have to actually pay attention to what I'm looking at. Pardon me. Do a brain dump. Alright, for certain types of tests, remembering facts, data, and formulas is key. Okay, like mathematics, sure. For these tests, it can be helpful to take a few minutes to write down all the information you need on scrap paper before you get started. Kind of. Putting that information down on paper can relieve stress and help you focus on test questions without worrying your ability to recall the facts. And I have a cheat sheet. Okay, yes, but there are specifics to this. So, if you are in a certain upper level math class, right, what they usually do is they let you have a cheat sheet beforehand. So they might say, okay, you have a page, you just write all the formulas on a page, and then that's your cheat sheet for the whole test, right? And at that point, it's not so much a test-taking strategy, it's more like how finely small can you write, and how well can you read your tiny handprint writing. But for something like this, with this mathematics where you have certain formulas or things like that, there's a little bit more to this. In fact, what you want to do is, if you're able to take the time to, where is it? Oh, shoot. Arrive early. When you arrive early to the test, right? What you could do is, if you have sort of study material, you can kind of use that time when you're there early, 5-10 minutes before, to try to memorize maybe a few equations that you don't know, right? Or that you kind of know, but are a little bit tricky and you want to get them exactly right. Like the, I don't know, quadratic formula, something crazy, right? Yeah. So then what you do is you arrive early, you would try to memorize really quickly what are these equations, what are these things I need to know, and then once the test starts, then you do the brain dump. You write that down right away, you write it down before you forget it, you write down any other equation that you can, and then that is when you do that part. And you do that first. In fact, I would say you do that first before you read the entire test. If there's a, well, okay, I mean, read a part where it says, like, okay, you can have scrap paper, right? And then you would write it there. But on that scrap paper, I think this is pretty good advice, but it just needs a little bit more. Plus short review of equations. Before test. Yeah, because that's the way you do it. Study a little bit right before when you're there early. Write it all down. Good strategy. Very, very good. I like it. I like this one. But again, you have to kind of do that short review beforehand, because at the point that this works is not going to be something that you've already memorized and studied for like weeks beforehand. No, this only works if it's like very short term, like very specific, very hard to remember information, and you just kind of look at it quickly. It's like playing that game of where you gotta match pairs and you flip them over. The memorization game, right? Just short term memory. So that's how it works, and it's a strat. This works. This is legit. This is great for math, if you have the option to do it. And the nice thing is that sometimes you might not even need it to do it at all. If you have a very nice teacher, sometimes they won't necessarily have the equation. They'll have things where you can kind of get hints on the test as you do it to what that equation is. Like they'll have, like, you know, I don't know, pieces of the formula scattered through different questions, or they'll just have it as part of another question, and then it's just kind of like, oh, okay, it was there anyways. I didn't need to memorize it. But just in case, this is a very good strategy. I like it. And very applicable to math finals. That's for sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, hey, they covered it. Oh, this is great. Fantastic advice. Okay, so this is a bit redundant. So I'm going to post it right here. Answer the questions you know first. There we go. When possible, first do a pass-through to the test to answer the easy questions, the ones you know right away, right? Because maybe you think, okay, I only have like 30 seconds per question, but then if there's like a whole bunch of them, you can kind of skip and answer really quick in like maybe 10 seconds. Then that saves you so much more time. That saves you a whole lot of time where you're just kind of being able to answer a bunch of little questions where maybe you have all this. And then even if it's like a smattering of questions, like all over the place, right? Even then, even if it's just a smattering of questions that you're able to do very, very fast, that dedicates and allocates a lot, no, sorry, that allocates, not dedicates, that allocates a lot more time to literally every other question. So that's really cool. And again, as they say, don't rush through it though. You still gotta be mindful of your time. And you want to make sure that you have enough time for to go back to the questions that you skipped. Now, this is kind of a thing that you have to feel for. So, Oh, ooh, I'll cover this in a bit. But on paper tests, right? This is kind of a thing that you have to have a feel for, where you kind of think, okay, well, how easy is easy, right? Is easy where like, oh yeah, I know how to do it, but it's going to take me like a minute or two to kind of like, write out this whole thing, right? I would say easy is like, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds or less, right? If you could just knock it out of the park. It's like a multiple choice. And if you know the answer right away, those are easy. You can do it. True, false. Easy, right? If it's something where you have to write like an essay, well then you gotta kind of, again, read the whole test first, figure out which one of those is the easiest, and then you go through that one. As short as you can. Now, what I don't recommend is you don't kind of do an escalating where, okay, you do the easy ones first, and then you skip the rest. And then you do the medium, and then skip rest. And then you do hard, and skip rest. That is a way to do things, but I don't recommend it. The reason why is because you only want, or actually, sorry, I forgot that mutes me. You kind of just want to definitely do the easiest first and then skip the rest. That is a running strat, and then you kind of go through it in order. Because if you start going through the medium and then you're skipping, then the hard, then the skipping, what you're doing is you're taking too much time deciding is this medium or hard, and that nuance. It's better to just kind of go through it. Take the test. Yeah, instead of just kind of figuring out the nuances of is this medium or hard, just do the easy ones that are really, really easy, and then you just work as you go through the rest. Some sections might be easier than others. That's fine. Some might be more medium than others. That's fine. Again, it's just that initial cursory go through. That's the big one. And then you just go through 1 through 100 in order. Now again, though, if it is hard, if it's really hard, you can still probably skip it. Like if it's like impossibly hard, and you just have like this one weird random question, and like this whole section of questions, and you're just like, what is this thing? I don't remember this at all. This is so hard. I'm gonna take like 10 minutes figuring this thing out. When it's something crazy like that, then skip it, because chances are this thing is an equal value in points wise to the next thing. They're equal in points. So just do the ones that are not like crazy hard. Save those for last. Although I guess that is kind of like, shoot, I guess that is the method, huh? You do the medium ones and you skip the hard. But again, don't try to think of it that way. Just skip the ones that are like super hard. Because those will mess you up. Those will hold you back and probably prevent you from answering like 5 other questions, which would have gotten you like 5 more points than just doing the one that's really hard. But chances are, again, depends on the professor, that one really hard question is worth like a lot more points than the others. And then at that point, you still want to save it, but like for last, and then you just kind of give it a shot. Now, for computer-based tests, sometimes they have to have you do things in order, and you can't go back. Yeah, that's a thing. I know of a few classes that are computer-based. Either it's all on one page, and then you can just kind of jump back and forth. So then you can technically kind of skip it, but you're still on the same page. But you still have to go through all of it before you go on to the next page, or before you go on to the next part of the test. So in that sense, this test taking strategy does not quite work. So at that point, you just need to be mindful of your time. Oh. Okay. Answer the questions you skipped. So, also related, and I guess they're just kind of like walking through the whole process. Yeah, you go back and you answer the questions that you skipped, of course. And again, if there's 1 or 2 things that are like really impossibly hard, take a really long time, and you have no idea, I would say still skip those. But just, yeah, again, don't forget to go back and do the rest of the test. This is kind of like obvious. It's like, yeah. take the rest of the test. Now they have this whole kind of thing where it's like, okay, your mind is warmed up, now you're engaged, sure, but I feel like that's a bit obvious. Ooh, Be sure the test is complete. Yes. If you have the time, if you've answered all the questions, if you're lucky enough to maybe have an extra 10 minutes on the clock, definitely just do another cursory review over it, right? But instead of kind of just figuring out what the test is and making sure you understand it and how much time you can allocate for each question, this part is more making sure that you're crossing your T's, dotting your I's, making sure that you didn't miss any skips, making sure that your bubbles are completely filled in, making sure that your name's on the top of the thing, making sure that you read or are looking at the instructions, and that everything is complete. It's a good habit. It's a very good habit to have. It's basically like double checking a room before you leave or check out to make sure you didn't forget anything, right? And the thing is that sometimes you go through a test, and especially if it's like one of those big tests that's like multiple choice, right? And it's just like a bunch of bubbles, one after another, right? And it's just like this whole sheet of all these bubbles. This thing will save your life. Making sure the test is complete, because sometimes you might realize that you accidentally skipped one, and then all your test answers are slightly off by one row. So you know all this stuff, you got it all right, but because you messed up on filling out the test sheet form, if it's like a multiple choice bubbles, then you might realize, oh no, this whole 20 questions right here, they're all slightly off, where, you know, they should be up to here, and then this one should be up here, and this one should be up here, and I got them all mixed up because you're going so fast, or you're freaking out, or whatever nerves may have gotten to you. So by double checking and making sure to allow time to double check the test, that will give you the grace to realize any mistakes and to correct those mistakes. If you're lucky enough to do multiple choice on a test sheet, then you have a really good eraser. That's another thing. Have a really good eraser. Whoops. Have a good eraser. Just in case you need to double check and fix any test mistakes that are not necessarily mistakes of you don't know something, but rather just like honest mistakes of where all the questions have been shifted or something, or you skipped something and you didn't mean to. That's a big one. Yeah. And then also, again, let's say, for example, you didn't make that mistake, right? But there's some questions that's really, really hard. By making sure the test is complete, then at that point you can just guess. You have extra time to kind of make some final attempts at this one hard problem, and you can just give it a shot, right? Because as they say, something is better than nothing. If you put in like a partial answer, you might not get the point, or maybe you might. I don't know how your teacher is, but you're more likely to get a better grade by attempting than by leaving something blank. Solid advice. Yeah. Alright. And then... oh, well, here it is. Literally the same thing I was talking about. Okay, well, I guess I slightly misunderstood. But they're talking here about checking your work. So typos, missed answers, things like that. Double checking and don't overthink it. I think that's actually more important. Double check, don't overthink. Because sometimes if you have like way too much time and you feel like this final was super easy, you might overthink, second guess yourself, realize, well, what if I did this wrong? Or what if I was supposed to use this equation? Maybe, but you know, don't stress yourself out about it, because sometimes you might overthink and get into the wrong answer, especially if it's like an essay kind of question where you have to like write stuff down. Yeah, in some ways you just got to go with your gut. Yeah, okay. Oh, oh, shoot, it's time. Okay. Well, there was a little bit more about oh my god, test taking anxiety. Okay. But I am out of time, so I do need to go. You know what? Let's save this for next week. Test taking anxiety. And they only bring up like a few examples, but I think there's a lot more that can probably apply. All right. So I think we're good for now. And to anyone that has come to the stream, thank you for coming along. I hope this helps with test taking skills and habits. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to send me a DM. And I will see y'all next week. Yeah, wow, time really flew by fast on this one. How do I do this? Ah, here we go. Alright, have a good night, everyone.